practice, and the integrity one has to have, and the respect one has to have towards the animals if one goes into this. This is a side note. Okay. Another thing we can use with communication is to understand strange behavior, something we don't know what's going on. So I have 1,000 cases of strange behavior ranging from all kinds of things. Actually, I have a funny one, I'll tell you about so in a minute. That just made me laugh. An example was a cat. This is just an example amongst many options, many possibilities. And the cat, when the people, we lived with a couple, and he had been adopted, I think they've had him for about 3 or 4 years. And so when they would go to bed and they would turn off the lights, the cat would stop meowing, but like crazy. And so they would turn back the light on and he would stop. And so he would meow all night. So when the woman came to see me, she had eyeshadows. So when the woman came to see me, she had eyeshadows like down to her feet, because basically they hadn't slept, this couple hadn't slept for 3 nights because the cat was meowing all night. And so the question we put to them is, well, why did you keep the cat? Why did you not adopt the cat? And they said, well, because the cat was already with other families before, so we decided to keep this cat. Can you help us? Can you help us? We're despair. We can't continue without sleeping. So when we did the communication with the cat, what the images that were given in response was that he was with, Mimi was her name. She was with a woman, and she experienced that woman's death. And so, and it looked like she stayed with the body of the dead woman a few days after the death of the woman. So I had no idea about if this was true or not. This is just information that was given to me in forms of pictures again, and feelings and sensations and thoughts. And therefore, in her mind, was that when she thought that when you turn off the lights and people go to sleep, it meant they were going to pass. So I spoke with a woman and I said, well, I have no idea what this means, but this is what I have. And then the woman, she confirmed it to me. She said, yes, the woman that she was with before I think she had a stroke or something in her sleep. She died in her sleep. And the cat stayed with the body for 5 extra days until the children came of the woman. They they broke into the house, and they were actually kicking the cat around, which was also shown to me, but I didn't dare to say it. And they said, well, we're going to put her down, the cat, and all that. And then someone adopted, this woman adopted the cat. So, and then the woman told me also that even before this woman, there was another woman, there were another family, I don't know who it was, but that the cat also experienced the death of that person too. So the cat had lived with 3 different people and had experienced 3 times, actually, death. So in the mind of the cat, I love the story because it's very strange. In the mind of this cat, when they went to sleep, it meant they were going to die. Therefore, she would be abandoned. So I had to communicate back to the cat that this was not the case, that they were going to stay alive, and they were allowed to turn off the lights and go to sleep. And this took a lot of time. This took 3 months, actually, of back and forth. This was a difficult case because at the beginning, I managed to get the cat to stop meowing only at 4 o'clock in the morning instead of 10. I kept getting down in hours, but I wasn't. And then it was 4, and it was 5, and it was 6, and it was 7. And then we finally managed to get the cat to stop meowing at a normal hour, like 8 o'clock in the morning. So we managed to get that. And now the cat is, that's it, finished. No more meowing, because finally understood that she, Mimi, that she's safe. Okay? So I like this story because it was a funny one. And then she came to see me, the woman. She was so happy, and she looked much, much better because she finally slept. There was no more eyeshadows under the eyes. So what's fun about communication, what's interesting and fun and challenging and exciting, is that you can go into the being and the spirit of the animal, and you can find the things that they're feeling and thinking. And it also shows you that they have thoughts and emotions the same as us. Basically, the type of emotions and thoughts that we have, the basic ones, I'm not talking of higher consciousness and stuff like that, I'm talking of basic emotions, they have the same ones. This is a belief of mine, So it's not the truth. So anything I say in this room is not a truth. It's just, I'm talking based on my experiences. So nothing that I say is a truth. You take what you like, and what you don't like, you throw it out. So a belief of mine is that they don't have creative consciousness, which means that they can't build cathedrals or write books or atomic bombs. They don't have creative consciousness, but they do have consciousness, and they have thoughts and emotions as we do. We have the same range of thoughts and emotions. A bit less complex because we're very complicated human beings. They're more simple in that sense. But the more an animal is close to a person, the more complex the thoughts and emotions become, the more he's in touch. Therefore, a domesticated animal is much more complex in thought and emotions than a wild animal, at least to my experience, to what I've experienced through communication. So the next would be, within the complex, what I would call the complex cases, would be the cases of animals that absorb things from the people that they are with. So I have a bunch of them, so they're really interesting. I'm going to give you a few because of the time. And this, for me, is the most challenging, the most fun, because the fact that they can take on things from the people, what they take on are the very deep emotions that are underneath, that are hidden, that are not expressed. And this can only be revealed through a communication. So there's thousands of cases, and there's a lot described in the book also. I'm just going to talk about one because I just thought about it, so it made me laugh when I first experienced this case. And I experienced it in a workshop, actually, and it was from Belgium. Yeah, in Belgium. And the girl, when she's talked about it, a young woman, I mean, she's in her late 20s, I just burst out laughing, and I couldn't stop laughing for 15 minutes, which was very embarrassing because I was in a workshop. So basically, she told me that her cat, whose name was Tao, black cat, every night he would bounce on the sexual members, how do you say that? Parts. Yeah, sexual parts of her boyfriend, and he would attack the boyfriend, and he would bite very badly on the sexual parts. So, unfortunately, when she told me that, I started laughing, which was not at all the thing to do. Not at all the right type of behavior to have. But I thought it was extremely funny, because right away I knew, I got the images of what was going on and why that was happening. And so, the reason that was why it was happening in her case was because this woman, beautiful woman, had experienced a lot of abuse and had a very difficult relationship with her father, very strict, authoritarian, non-understanding father, Middle Eastern father actually, but she lived in Belgium. Very strong authoritative man, and she had experienced abuse from men at a young age. So she had a lot of issues about things like that, and it was expressed by the cat in a very comical way, which you might not think it's funny, but I did. It reminded me of a comic strip. So, okay. On another type of note, we'll talk about another type of case where they absorb things from people. So I'll talk about cases of separation anxiety. Now this case was from France, and the dog was called Canaille, which is not a good name. And the dog lived with a woman and her daughter, her young daughter. And what would happen is whenever she would come back home, the house was completely destroyed. So this case was given to me by a veterinarian in the east of France. This was in Alsace, east of France. And they showed me pictures, and I can guarantee this was unbelievable. This was feathers all over the place because she would break up the cushions, eat the linoleum on the floor, the sofas, the wood, anything that could be chewed, everything was chewed up when she would leave. So we do the communication. This was a very, very bad case. And she said, if it goes on like this, the dog is going to have to end up in the pound, or is going to have to be euthanized, because we can't solve this situation. So we do the communication. And the first layer of communication is, how is the dog feeling? So first layer of communication is that the dog is feeling panic because they're gone. So all the feelings of a panic attack. So the same as it would be for a human being, suffocating, lack of breath, we might not salivate, but salivation, heart beating, fear, the feeling that things are closing in on you, like a person, the feeling of panic attack. That's the first layer. But then, when you keep going, so you stay in that, I stay in that space, so you keep receiving information. And when I kept going, what was coming up was a feeling of, I hear sounds in the house of anger, of fighting. And I hear drawers and doors slamming and drawers banging. I hear sounds linked to fighting, arguing, fighting. That's the second layer. And then third layer, when I keep going down, I connect to the person, the woman who lives with the dog. I don't use the word owner, so the guardian. And I get a strong feeling of a lot of anger. Lots of anger. And that feeling of anger is connected to a man. To a man that she's not with now. That's the information. Okay, so I kind of try to gently relay the information the best I can, asking questions. Could it be possible that there could be possibly something with a man that you might be angry about? So she says, oh yes, that's my ex-husband, and he's and she starts like, what's the word, coming down on the ex-husband. And so I say, well, yes, well, what's happening is that the anger towards the ex-husband is expressed by your dog by tearing everything apart in the house. And is there possibly a lot of arguing going on with your daughter? Because I'm hearing the arguing and fighting. So she says, yes, she's impossible. Since the divorce, we don't get on, lots of arguing. So I say, well, okay, this is a bit complicated. It's definitely a case of separation anxiety, but it's linked to other things. So I said, well, maybe you would consider doing a therapy. So she agrees, she actually agrees, because it was either euthanasia or bringing the dog to the pound, and the case was given to me by a veterinarian. So the woman agrees to do therapy, and they agree that the dog is going to stay at the house of the parents while she does therapy. And I never hear about the dog again. I get no news, I have no idea what's going on. And 6 months later, I'm in Eastern Europe, I'm giving a lecture, and this woman walks in, and she presents herself and she says, I am the guardian of Kanai. And she says, it's absolutely perfect now. There are no more problems, there's no more separation anxiety, everything is fine. And the only reason why it became fine is because she did the therapy. And she hopefully got rid of all the anger, and hopefully the relationship with the daughter improved, and everything transformed inside of her, and therefore the dog did not have to express all that. So I'm not going to generalize at all, because a case of an animal, a dog destroying a house, could be many factors. It could be many things. But it can often be related to something going on in the house. Same as the case of a cat urinating in the house. So really fast about that type of case, a cat that used to, wait, which one shall I tell you? Because I have so many. There's a lot of pee-pee cats. I call them pee-pee cats. And like, when I have the pee-pee cats, I'm like, oh good, I have a pee-pee cat. Because it's going to be stuff. Because unless it's territorial. It could be just territorial, marking territory, so that other cats don't come in, or marking space, because the animal has been abandoned or traumatized, or just marking the space because someone in the house needs to feel protected. There can be many reasons. Or territory towards other animals. And it could also be obviously physical. So the first thing we ask when an animal has, a cat is urinating in the house is, have you seen the veterinarian? Have you made sure there is no urinary infections, no kidney problems, and no crystals? So that's the first thing we rule out, something physical. So amongst the many funny, I like them, I think they're funny, but people don't think they're funny at all, especially when a cat is peeing in the house, it's not funny. It smells very bad. Let's see, which one, one of the, yeah, one simple one. With the cat, well, this one he did both. Was he or she? Let me see. It was a she. So she would do both. She would actually pee in the house, and the woman told me that she would poop in front of the door, So when the husband opened the bedroom door first thing in the morning, he would put his foot right in it every morning. So of course that did not improve the relationship at all. So when I did the communication, it was very clear that all that was going on because there was a lot of emotional tension between the couple. Basically, they were about to separate. It wasn't going on. They were living in separate rooms. I'll spare you all the details. A lot of details that I was able to tell her, the woman, about the people through the cat, but it had to do with the relationship. So, of course, we're not expected to be saints. We're not expected to have perfect relationships. But what I've noticed is that when we understand, when we are able to express the deep emotion, the animal stops doing the weird behavior. Because the reason why the cat was pooping and peeing is because she wasn't able to talk with the husband. She kept it all in. She wasn't able to express, and he would just like bash on her. I don't want to go into their story, it's their story. But she wasn't able to express her truth. And because it was all held in and underneath, that's what the cat was doing. So when she understood all of that, and she did some work on herself, the cat stopped doing that. So basically, it's not about us having to be saints and lead perfect lives so that our animals don't have weird behavioral things. It's just about the things that we're not expressing. And from my experience, again, this is not a total truth, but from my experience, it's only about the things that we are not expressing. So people could be arguing, but it's expressed and it's out in the open and it's honest, and the cat doesn't have to do pee-pee all over the place, unless it's too stressful for the cat, the atmosphere. So from my experience, again, not absolute truth, and I'm not declaring or affirming anything. What I've experienced is when an animal has a deep emotion, a person has a deep emotion inside that is repressed, and it's not up at the surface, it's often expressed by the animal. And through the animal, if it's understood, if the animal doesn't end up in the pound or euthanized, because that's what usually happens, especially in France, if we don't catch it on time, if we're able to find the cause, then things can be solved, and the person can find healing for themselves. So I'll tell you one more case, and then we'll go to death experiences. Not much time there. We're okay? Can I still talk a bit? One more case, because this one is an interesting one. This is one that happened in Switzerland, and it's about a woman who came to me, and she was very aggressive, and she was like, horse never does what I want. Beautiful Spanish horse, incredible horse, and the picture was really incredible. But she was really angry at the horse. She was, he never does what I want, it's not right, it's not right, it's never right, it's not perfect, blah, blah. You have to do a communication, so he stops doing this and that and that and that. So obviously she was in the animal communication workshop, which is not the right thing to say in front of all the other people that are coming to the class. So already people didn't like her too much. They had a feeling towards her. So when it was her time to do the horse, when it was her time that we were going to do her horse, some people walked out because they were upset, and they said, well, we know this woman, she's in the same equestrian center as we are, and we don't want to deal with her, so we don't want to do the communication, we're going to go out for a stroll, and we'll come back when it's done. So they left, so we did the communication, and what the information that came was that this horse was actually